In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to crochet this gorgeous colorful sweater that I made in 2 colors. I'll be using the football stitch, or what some people call the almond stitch. Now, without further ado, let's dig in. For this sweater, we'll be using the 5mm hook. We'll be using a tape measurement, a scissors to cut off the yarn, a darning needle to sew in our ends, a stitch marker to mark up our stitches, and 5 skeins of yarn. I'm using I love this yarn from the Hobby Lobby, but you can use any yarn of your choice for this sweater. Now let's dig in. We are going to start off with the front and back panels, and we're going to be making a chain of multiples of 8. Multiples of 8. I'm going to be making a size large because I wear a size large, and I'm going to measure my shoulder to shoulder. Put your measuring tape on your left shoulder and measure up to your right shoulder. I like to go down a little bit because I want my panels to fall on the shoulder. So I'm getting a 20 inches. And remember, we're going to make a multiple of 8. Now, I made a slip knot, and I'm making a chain of 72 for the large size and also a multiple of 8. I'll continue making it and I'll meet you back in. So I made 72 chains, and when I measure that out, it is about 22 inches. It's close to the 20 inches that I measured for my shoulder, but that's okay. The next thing to do is hold off the 72 stitch and make chain 1. Turn the back of your work. We are going to be working on these loops that are coming out. So what I'm going to do is to make 4 single crochet starting from the 72 stitch. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that is my 4 single crochet. Then the next thing is to make 4 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, I make another 4 single crochet. So now we have 8 stitches, okay? So I make another 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I make 4 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I make another 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I make another 4 double crochet. 1, 2, 2, 3, and 4. So we are going to continue making 4 single crochet, 4 double crochet until we get to the end of the row, and I will meet you back in to see how we ended. I've gotten to the end of the row, and I have 4 stitches left. Because the previous one is 4 single crochet, I'm going to go ahead and make 4 double crochet for the end. 2, 3, and the last one is 4. Perfect. So we finished with this row. It should be looking like this, okay? So next thing is we chain 1 and we turn our work. We turn our work like this. The second row, we are going to be making a football, right? So the second row will go ahead and make the same thing that we made here, but on the reverse. So instead of starting with a single crochet, we're going to be continuing with a double crochet like we have here at the bottom. So you chain 1, and on that first stitch, this single crochet does not count as a stitch. On that first stitch, you make a double crochet, okay? Then you make the second double crochet. You make the third double crochet, and then you make the 4th double crochet. Perfect. For the next one, we're going to go ahead and make single crochet to match this one at the bottom. So 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 3 and 4. Awesome, right? It's so easy. Then we make another 4 double crochet on top of the 4 double crochet. So basically we'll be making, for the first 2 rows, we'll be making single crochet on top, single crochet, double crochet on top, double crochet, only for the first 2 rows. So let's continue until we get to the end of the row, and I'll meet you back in. We've gotten to the end of the row. As you can see, it's already looking like a football. Can you see that? It's looking like a football, and it's also a little bit wavy. So we got to the end of the row. We're going to go ahead and make 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and 4, the last one. Then we chain 1 and cut. We're going to change colors. So we're going to carry our yarn as we go. We're not going to sew anything in except maybe when we do the ribbons. So we cut off a short. Make it short so that it's easy to finish. Make it as short as possible, but not too short, okay, so it doesn't come off. So we have our first 2 rows here. Now it's time to attach a new yarn, and we'll begin the 3rd row. The 3rd row actually looks different than this. I'm going to be using this red color for the next row. So to attach my yarn, I go into the first row after I've turned, and then I insert my yarn, tie off the end to secure that so that it doesn't come off, and pull it towards the other side. Okay, see what I'm doing? I pull it so it's easy for me to crochet above it. So I insert my hook and pull up the loop and make a chain 1. So remember, for this first 2 we did a single crochet. This time around we're not going to be starting with a single crochet. We're going to be starting with a double crochet. So we make a double crochet on that first stitch, then make another double crochet, 2, make the 3rd one, and make the 4th one. Now on top of this double crochet, we're gonna make 4 single crochet. So now we are alternating the pattern. 2, 3, and 4. Now for the next one, we're going to do 4 doubles. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Did you see that? Perfect. Then we're going to make 4 singles on top. So we're going to continue working this pattern until we get to the end of the row, and I'll meet you back in. Now we are at the end of the row. We're going to make 4 single crochet on top of this double crochet. 1, 2, 3, and 4. When we do that, then we make chain 1 to turn our work. So we're going to repeat the exact thing we did with these 2. We're going to do the same thing we did for this 3rd row on top. Okay, so we do 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we make 4 double crochet. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we make another 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sure you're getting a hang of it now. I will meet you at the end of the row to change color once more. I'm at the end of the row. I already did the 3 double crochet. So for the 4th one, you may notice that it's stuck on, like it's not as visible, but it's right there. Can you see that? That is the 4th one. So we go ahead and insert our hook and pull up a loop and make our double crochet. So this is what your 2 color rows, your 4 rows but 2 colors should be looking like. For the next one, you make a chain and cut. Make a short cut. Alrighty. If you notice the yarn that you are weaving in over, maybe pulling up, what you just need to do is to pull it up and cut it, and then it's right back inside. You may do this for all of the rows. Maybe after you finish the sweater, then you can go back and just do the finishing touches. All right, let's add another color. I'm going to be adding this green. You can fast forward it if you have gotten the hang of it, but if you want to see how I attach a new yarn, I told you before that I usually cut and then I insert a new yarn with my hook on the first stitch, tie it up right there, and then pull it to the other side where I will be crocheting over the two yarn. So I make chain 1 and then I do a single crochet because this is double. So I make 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 3 single crochet, and then 4 single crochet. Okay, now you can use as many colors as you want. I'm going to be using about 10-12 colors, and you keep working on these 2 repeated patterns. 2 single, starting with 2 single, 2 double, 2 single, 2 double. You keep going up until you're ready to make your neckline. If you want it long, you can make it longer. If you want it short, you can make short. Even if you want a crop top, you can make it a crop top, however you want. But for me, I'm just gonna make it a jumper, okay? Not too long and not too short. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is to walk up my rows. I'm going to be walking up to 48 rows for the large size. And when I get there, I'm going to show you guys the next thing to do. If you are a size medium or size small, you could measure yourself from your hips up to your breasts or bust area. You can measure up and then do that, and then we can come back and see how we can do the neck hole. So I'm back with my panel, my front panel. I've made 48 rows, and look at those colors. It's so beautiful. Now you can combine your colors the way that you like. The way that I did mine was just to mix up the colors. I didn't follow like a particular sequence to do this. So use your discretion to combine the colors the way that you like. The next thing to do is to create the neck hole in the left and the right shoulder panels. So what we're going to do right now is to divide this entire panel into 3. So we have 72 stitches here, and when we divide it by 3, what we're going to get is 24. So what I'm going to do is to count 24 from this end to here, 24 from this end to here, and then place my stitch markers on it. Now let's do it together. You can skip this version if you want. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So we ended on the last stitch from the single crochet on this side. And then on this side, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. On this side, we ended with a double crochet, and it doesn't matter, okay? Now we're going to start crocheting our shoulder length, and we're going to do that starting on this side for the right side. I'm going to use this red one to start. We're going to do 6 more rows for the shoulder. So I simply attach my hook on the first, just like we've been doing. Pull it up, tie it. And then make a single crochet right there. This doesn't count as a stitch. So because we ended with a double crochet right here, what we're going to do is 4 single crochet first. 2, 3, and 4. And then we do 4 doubles. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. And around we're gonna continue working on this until we get to the stitch marker. Now we're at the stitch marker. What we're going to do is take this out and then place the final double crochet, make a chain 1, and turn. Now that we've turned, the next is to make 4 more double crochet on top of this. 2, 3, and 4. And then you continue with this same pattern until we get to the end of the row. I'm now at the end of the row. I'm going to chain 1 and cut. Okay, so I turn back my work, okay? I turn back my work, and I'm going to continue on this side of the left side of the shoulder panel. I take out the stitch marker and insert my hook. All right, so I'm going to start on the same line that I started with this right side. Make sure that you turn your work before starting. And then I insert, tie it up, pull up a loop. So because this is double crochet, we're going to do 4 single crochets on here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And just continue with that pattern until we get to the end of the row. Now I'm at the end of the row. What I'm going to do now is to chain 1 and turn. Make sure you secure those stitch markers so you don't lose them. They're so easy to lose. Now we do 4 more double crochet on here because the previous one was a double crochet. So we continue working on that pattern until we get to this end of the row, and I'll meet you back in. I'm on the end of the row, so what we're just gonna do is to chain 1 and cut. For this side we ended on the left, and for this side we ended on this side. Okay, now this is what we have right now. On the next row we're going to use another color, do another 2, and then use another color and complete it. So in general we're going to have 6 rows for the shoulders, and then we'll leave this place for when we'll do the ribbon. I'll meet you back when I finish adding my other 4 rows. I finished adding the length of my shoulder panels. As you can see, I have 6 on the right and 6 on the left. And I left a long tail to sew in with the second panel when I'm done with it. Now, let me tell you how we're going to do the second panel, because this is a front panel. It's still going to be the same pattern. We're still going to chain 72, use the same colors, exactly the way you did this. But when you get to this level, I'll show you what you're going to do. When we get to row 48, I'm going to show you what you're going to do for that one, okay? All right. I finished my second panel, and this is what it looks like. Now, as you can see, I got to this stage, okay? But I'm not going to stop here. Like, I stopped at the front panel to make the left and the right shoulders. So what I'm going to do right now is to keep walking up until I get to this, okay? I'll get to the gray color. So I'm going to only make this space for the neckline only on the pink section, okay? Now let me walk up and I'll show you what I mean. If I didn't mention it before, in general, we have 52 rows for this sweater, okay? Now I have crocheted up to the gray area. It's now time for me to create the neckline for the back panel, and I'm only going to do that for the 51st and for the 52nd row. That way it's obvious, okay, it's obvious which side is the back and which side is the front, and yours should be looking like this. I'm going to go ahead and create that neck hole to match this. Remember, what we're going to do is to divide this by 3 with your stitch markers. You make 24 here, and then you do the 2 rows. I'll do that and I'll meet you back in. Okay, we finished the front and the back panel now. This is the back panel. It only has 2 rows for the shoulders, and the front panel has 6 rows. So this is what they should look like. Okay, all right, perfect. The next thing for us to do now is to create the sleeves. To make the sleeves, you need 2 measurements. You need to measure your arm around. So take a measurement, wrap it around the upper part of your arm and measure it, okay? You also need to measure the length of your hand, the length of your arm. So you measure from top of the shoulder a little bit down. Don't do like the top of the shoulder. Bring it down a little, maybe 2 inches, and then measure straight to your wrists or a little bit above the end of your wrists. Use your discretion to know the length of your hand or your sleeve. Now what I'm going to do is to make chains that is long enough for the armhole, and we'll walk up until we get to the length of the shoulder. Remember that we're still going to do a chain of 8 because we are doing 4 single crochet and 4 double crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and make the one for my size, which is the large size. I'm going to make a chain of 56. Now I have 56 chains right here. I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. Now starting with the first chain, I make 4 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we'll continue making these until we get to the length of your arms, okay? The length of your arms. The length of my arm is 17 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and walk up until I get to 17 inches, and I will tell you the number of rows that I did. Make sure that you make 2 of these. Make 2 of the sleeves, and we'll come back to join them together. I finished making the left and the right sleeves, and in total I have 44 rows of the sleeves. The next thing will be to join the whole thing together. We'll start by joining the shoulders of the front and the back panel together. And what we're going to do is to turn the right side out. So just line them up the way that you want it to be. You can use either side as the front or the back. But for me, I like to use this place that is bumped up as the front. And so this is my back. And what I'm going to do right now is to get my darning needle and pass this yarn that I left out in one of the panels. I put my yarn inside the darning needle carefully, and then I align these 2 together, and then I begin to sew. I'm going to sew from right to left, or if you like, you can turn it like this. let's get a closer view of what I'm about to do right now. So this is the first stitch. So I pass my yarn darning needle, and then this is the first stitch. I pass my darning needle and I pull it tight. Let's do this again. I get the stitch first on this side, the second on that side, and I pull. So what you're doing is to sew across the stitches. Continue doing this until you get to the end of the row. When you get to the end of the row, I'll show you what to do with the leftover yarn. I've gotten to the end of the stitch, so the last one I do the same. Pass it down, then I make another stitch right here. I sew it again so it can be tight. Good. Now the next thing I do is to sew it again just to secure that part. Okay, now I feel satisfied. The next thing I'll do is to sew in these ends. I'll sew in this end and then I'll cut off the yarn. To sew in the end, I turn and I pass the needle inside like this. I go back, pass the needle, I go back again, and I go back again. So I did that 4 times, and now I'm satisfied. I'm going to cut off the yarn. I'm going ahead to sew this side. As you can see, I have joined the 2 panels together. Now the next thing is to get the sleeves and line them up so that they are equal on both sides, okay? So if I count the number of clusters, like 4 clusters that I have on here, I have 14 clusters, okay? That's 4 single crochet, 4 double crochet. If I count them like this, 1 2 3 4 5 6, what I have is 14 clusters. So this is the front and the back panel. I'm going to make sure that I have 7 here and 7 there, and then I use this stitch marker to mark up where they stopped, if you know what I mean. Let's do it together, okay? So this is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and this is the middle ground. So this is where I'm going to attach. This is where it stopped, okay? And then to the beginning of this panel, I attach it right there. But we're not done yet. We're also going to count down on here and attach the 2 together. So I'm counting, making sure that it's the same with the front and the back panel, all right? So I'm counting 2 4 6 8 10 12 14 16 18 20. So I'm going to stop at the 20th row. On here, I put my stitch marker on the 20th row for this, and then I come on this side and I do 20th row as well. 2 4 6 8 10 12 14 16 18 20. As you can see, it stopped at the pink right here. So over here, I'm also going to stop at the pink. Perfect. So I have aligned my sleeves perfectly. Now I get my darning needle and put the yarn in there, and then I start sewing. Again, we're going to use the same type of sewing method that we used for the shoulders, because we already have yellow here, so it covers this side as well. If you have a larger space where you can sew, please go ahead. You can even use your bed or your floor, whatever space you have that you can use to sew is perfect. All right, so basically what I'm going to do is sew from pink to pink, making sure that everything is well aligned. So I'm going to first take off this stitch marker, and then I start sewing just the way that I sewed the other time. Sewing across these stitches on the other side. All right, we are getting to the end. Now we take off the stitch marker, making sure that this is stopping at the pink area and not at the green. Okay, we have to secure that really tightly. Yeah, then it's time to weave in this end and cut. And we do what we did on the other side. We repeat the same method of weaving in the ends. All right, we finished joining the sleeves, and this is what it looks like on the right side. Now use the same method to sew in the sleeves and the body together, and after that I'll meet you back in. I finished sewing my panels, the sleeves, and this is what it looks like. So the next thing I'm going to do is to create the ribbing for the neckline, and I'm going to start that with inserting my hook on the last row of the front panel, and then pulling my yarn and tie it up. I'm going to make a single crochet round the neckline. Okay, for this side of the panel, I'm going to make 6 single crochet. Okay, this is 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6 single crochets across. So I'm going to start with this one. This is my first single crochet. 2 3 4 5 and 6. After that, I go ahead and make 1 single crochet on each of these stitches in this row. Remember, I already made 1 single crochet here, so I just go ahead and put my next single crochet on here. And when I get to this place, I also make 1 single crochet on each of these rows, and until I come back here where I started and I make a slip stitch, and then we continue. I'll meet you back when I've gone around these stitches. I've gotten to the end of the row or the round, and the next thing I'm going to do is to make a slip stitch. To make a slip stitch, you simply insert your hook on the first stitch, pull up a loop and pull up, and now you've made a slip stitch. After slip stitching, the next thing we're going to do is to chain 11. Okay, let's chain 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now you can turn your work now. Hold off the 11th chain, and on the 10th one, make a slip stitch. On the 9th, you make a slip stitch. You keep making slip stitches until you get to the end of the row, and I'll show you the next thing that we're going to do. When making your slip stitch, make sure that it's loose, because if it's too tight, you must find it difficult to pull up when you come back to that row. All right, so I've gotten to the end of this row. The next thing I'm going to do is to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. Okay, so what I'm going to do is insert my hook, pull up, and make a slip stitch, making it very loose. Insert the 2nd stitch and pull up, and this is what I have. Now you turn your work. Okay, you skip these 2 stitches that you slip stitched on, and we're going to make a back loop slip stitch. Okay, on the 3rd one. So 1, 2, and the 3rd one will make a back loop. The normal thing that we usually do is to insert our hook here, right? But that's not what we're going to do for the back loop. For the back loop, you look at the center and you insert your hook in the middle right here, and then you make a slip stitch. Make sure that your tension is loose. Continue making your slip stitch until you get to the end of the row. So in total, we have 10 stitches that we have for the ribbon. When we get to the end, we chain 1 and turn. And on that first stitch, we're going to do a back loop. Again, you look at the V. In the middle of the V, you insert your hook and make a back loop. And then keep working on that back loop until a back loop slip stitch until we get to the end of the row. See how loose my tension is? So it will be easy for me to insert my hook. Make sure you count your stitches so you don't missing any one. Again, we slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. You don't make a chain 1 when you reach here. You only make a chain 1 when you get to this place. Okay. So again, we skip 2. On the 3rd one, we make back loop. So we continue working on the neck ribbon until we get to the end of the round, and I'll show you the next thing that we're going to do. I've gotten to the end of my row, and I slip stitched into the last row too. The next thing I'm going to do is to join these 2 panels together, and how I'm going to do that is I'm going to use a slip stitch as well. I'm going to insert my hook into the back loop of the first stitch and the front loop of the 2nd stitch, and I'll make a slip stitch. Okay, so front and back and slip stitch. Front, back, slip stitch. Front, back. I continue working that until I get to the end of the row, and when I finish seaming it, I cut. I make a chain and I cut until the neck is done. Okay, now we're going to be starting with the ribbon for the bottom of the sweater. To begin, you attach your yarn on the middle of the sweater. Any part of the middle is fine. Then insert your hook right there and make a chain of 11. You turn your work. Before you continue working, I want you to know that I frocked this yellow ribbon and I made a red ribbon. I also made a chain of 15 instead of 11 so that my ribbon can be longer than it was. So you can continue working this way or also increase your chains to 15 and then having 14 in total. Now let's continue working. You skip the 11th stitch. On the 10th stitch, you make a slip stitch, making sure that your tension is loose. This is my 10th slip stitch. The next thing I'm going to do is to slip stitch into the next 3 stitches. Before you continue, I wanted to let you know that when I frogged my work, I went ahead and slip stitched 2 times instead of 3 times like shown in this video. I wanted my bottom ribbon to be loose. So go ahead and make 2 slip stitches instead of 3, or you can keep working with 3 if you want a tight ribbon. 1, 2, and 3. Then you turn your work. You skip these 3 stitches, and on the 4th one, you make a back loop slip stitch. Continue making back loop slip stitches until you get to the end of the row. And then chain 1 and turn. When you turn, you also continue making back loop. As you can see, you have to turn your work like this to find that first slip stitch. 8, 9, 10. Great. You also slip stitch into the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. And you turn your work. You skip these 3 stitches, and on the 4th one, you make a back loop slip stitch. And continue working until you get to the end of the row. Again, make sure that your tension is loose. And when I get to the last, I chain 1 and turn. So I continue making that pattern, slip stitching into the next 3 stitches, turning your work, and go back and forth. You continue working that round the sweater, and when you're done, I'll meet you back in to seaming the ends. All right, I finished slip stitching round. The next thing to do is to seam together. Okay, to seam the ribbon, insert your hook on the back loop of the first stitch on this side and the front loop of the first stitch on the other side, and then make a slip stitch. Let's do that again. Insert back and front and make a slip stitch. So when we finish making the slip stitch, you're going to see that it looks exactly like these ones. Remember that this is still the front side, the right side of your work, and not the back side. We'll continue working that until we get to the end of the stitches. So we are at the end, you chain 1 and you cut. And see how that is? Okay. So we're done with the bottom of the sweater. And if you turn it, this is what it looks like. You can use whatever colors you like, of course. To make the cuff of the sleeve, what we're going to do is to insert our hook in the middle stitch and then pull up the yarn that you're going to use. And then I'll make a chain of 10. I also make another chain, making it 11 chains. I'll turn a work and slip stitch down to the first chain. Now, when you get to the last chain, what you're going to do is to slip stitch 4 times. So you're going to slip stitch in the next 4 chains. Let's do it together. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Perfect. Then you turn your work. You skip these 4 slip stitches, and on the 5th one, you make a back loop slip stitch. So I continue walking around, slip stitching 4 times, going up, come down, slip stitch 4 times until the cuff is finished, or till you get to the end of your cuff. And then we are going to seam it just the way that we seamed, using the front loop and the back loop slip stitches. And when we finish that, we're done with the sweater, and I'll show you what mine looks like. I finished seaming the cuff of both of the sleeves, and now the sweater is done and ready to wear. See you on the next video, and please tag me when you make your sweaters. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok, and we continue to crochet. Bye.